Hello, this is Mike Sanders from NTI, the leaders in placing Americans with disabilities in the workforce. I'm joined here today by Miss Wheelchair California, Krystina Jackson, to talk about disability in the workplace, and her recent participation in the Miss Wheelchair USA competition. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mike, so much for having me.
It sounds like you've had a lot on your plate over the past few months. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been experiencing?
Absolutely. So just last week, I returned from Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I traveled to compete for the title of Miss Wheelchair America 2019. And it was a week-long experience where all the women, the title holders from the other states, we all gather at Grand Rapids. We were at the Amway Grand Plaza, which was a really beautiful hotel. And we were all there, and we spent a week together, eating breakfast together, and then you'd go to workshops, and we had different phenomenal speakers come in to talk to us about how to do a radio interview and how to save money through programs like Able Now, and we could probably touch back on that a little bit more later, and how to reach out if you see ADA violations, how to reach the right people, the right lawyers and people that can actually take action to make things happen. So it was a really phenomenal week. After the workshops, we would do interviews, and then we'd have lunch and do different bonding activities with the other title holders. So I had never experienced anything like it before. I'm in California. I don't think pageants are really big here. I know in other states they're huge. Like I have family from Texas, and the whole pageant life, like it's a huge deal. And in California, I'd never really experienced it. And so it was all very new to me, very exciting. And what I love about the Miss Wheelchair America, as well as the Miss Wheelchair California Leadership Institute, is that the focus is on leadership and advocacy. So it's not a beauty pageant. That's what I was initially under the impression, that this was a beauty pageant. I actually approached at the Abilities Expo. I don't know who she was, but a woman came up to me at last year's Abilities Expo in San Mateo. And she said, hey, you should run for Miss Wheelchair California. And I thought, oh, a pageant, I'm not really about beauty competition. But when I did further research, I realized that it had nothing to do with that.
Krystina, you've truly embraced your disability by advocating and increasing awareness for others with disabilities. Now, prior to becoming disabled, you were an athlete seeking a professional sports contract, but a snowboarding accident changed things and sent you into another direction. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Correct. I joined the disability community in 2002 after I broke my neck in a snowboarding accident, and it was a pretty high-up injury, C4, C5 cleat injury, and so I do have paralysis from the chest down. So that was my introduction to the disability community. Honestly, before that, I really didn't have any experience with anyone in my family or friends, and it's funny because I always thought of myself as a very inclusive and diverse person. I had friends of all different backgrounds, Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, Black, everyone and every language. But I didn't have a single friend with a disability when I really stopped to think about it, not a visual impairment or a hearing, like nothing, absolutely nothing. So my introduction has been amazing. I've learned so much, and actually one of my best friends now, I met her while in rehab. She's an amputee, and she was really the first person that I got to know intimately who had a disability, and it's changed my life.
Over the course of time, life has significantly transitioned for you. So in that time, what have you learned about the disability community?
Yes, it has been a dramatic transition. So just going back a little bit, during the time when I was injured, I was a junior in college, and I was pursuing a professional career in soccer. So when I got the news that I'd sustained a paralyzing injury that, for the most part, was going to be permanent, it was extremely devastating. So it took a while to kind of let go of that dream, the physical dream of being a professional athlete. But then, once I started going to rehab, and you start meeting professional athletes who play power soccer and rugby and tennis. And it's like, oh my goodness, you can still pursue the things that you wanted to. You can still really enjoy a lot of the aspects of life that you did prior to becoming paralyzed or having any kind of like physical impairment. There's so much that you could do. And I would say for anyone who's newly injured is just give yourself space and time to really wrap your mind around where you are in your life, what the repercussions of your particular situation are going to be. But then once you do that, really start dreaming, like, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you could do? What part of your life before is something that you really miss, that you're really struggling to let go of? And then focus on finding a way to reincorporate that into your life. And so for me, what I loved about soccer so much was the competitive aspect. I love being on the field. I love challenging other players. I loved improving my skills and getting better. And you can get addicted to that feeling of winning, of being a champion. And after I got injured, it took a while to really figure out a way to do that. But I found a way to do that through business, through work, competitive in your field. So what I do now, as well as working for NTI, which is amazing, and I know we'll get to that, I have my own company, and we make accessories for power chairs and wheelchairs. And it's a very niche market. We have very few competitors, but the ones that we do, we really focus on crush the competition like the way you do on the field. And I found it to be just as satisfying as blazing down the field and burying the ball in the back of the net, honestly.
That's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about the accessory market that you're in right now?
Okay, yeah. So the accessory market that my company is called Gusto, and we're primarily sold on Etsy. We sometimes do craft fairs, but we mostly just sell online. And the market that we're in is we make custom covers for the chairs. So imagine if you're in a power chair, you're going to have a back cushion, you're going to have a seat cushion. So those standard, they come in black, and that's about it. There's some other companies that are doing things in like a camo print, but that's it. And so you're obligated to purchase what they're offering you. But with our company, the sky's the limit. So you reach out to us if you want to cover your whole chair in 49ers fabric from the headrest all the way down to the arm covers. We could do that for you. We actually did a LA Rams chair just over the summer. We're in the process of doing a princess chair for a little girl I met while I was in Michigan. So sky's the limit with the things that we do, and it's incredibly satisfying work because we work with the clients one-on-one. We help them take their measurements of their headrest or their armrest, whatever it is that they'd like to recover or refinish, and we help them do that. And in some cases, it's purely aesthetic, like they just want their chair to look better, elevate the experience of using a mobility device. But in some cases, it's kind of necessary. We've come across some people where the armrests were all torn up and their elbows were getting like scraped and everything on them. So it's like, we love to do those kind of jobs because it's kind of like time is of the essence, to get this recovered because the person is now suffering, secondary injuries from the chair, which you definitely don't want that. We love what we're doing, and I don't know another company that is making custom covers the way that we are. I have not come across them yet.
You said that you're on Etsy. Can you give us that information again?
So our company is called Gusto by KW. If you go onto Etsy and you search Gusto space by KW, you definitely should find us on there. And then you can place your order, and then I reach out to you and we take it from there, help you select your fabrics and take measurements. It's been a phenomenal experience. We have exceptional ratings. I think right now we're still at a 5 out of 5-star rating. So we work very closely with each client to make sure that in the end of the process, they're satisfied with their order.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that information with us, Krystina. We definitely value your entrepreneurial spirit. You mentioned before that you were also into competitive soccer. Since your injury, have you attempted any adaptive sports, or have you considered any?
During a rehab, I did a little bit of tennis, but I have not played any organized sports since I was injured, unfortunately. The tennis was really just recreational, but I haven't joined a team, and I would really love to. Now that I've been doing the Abilities Expo, not only my company, but a few other fantastic companies that help. They do peer support groups for people with spinal cord injuries. I meet people all the time that are playing, power soccer and rugby, and it's exciting, and I would love to do something like that when my schedule permits.
Krystina, right now you have a pretty packed schedule. Along with the duties of Miss Wheelchair California and your business, you also mentioned briefly that you're working for our organization, NTI. Since you found your job through NTI, can you tell us a little bit more about how you found the job and the services that we offered that were beneficial to you?
Absolutely. So a couple years back, we were running Gusto, we were operating Gusto, but I think, for most entrepreneurs, like capital is almost always an issue. And so I thought, you know what, I really need to get another job, to help infuse some capital into this company and really help us grow. So I just Googled working from home, people with disabilities, something along those lines. PI came up, and my jaw was just like on the floor for about the first 15 minutes while I navigated the site. It was extremely exciting. Once I filled out the resume and application on NTI, and then I waited, and they reached out to me, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I can't wait to see what opportunities NTI has to offer. I saw that they had the IRS on there, which I was interested in because I have a background in finance and my degree is in business administration, so I thought that would be a good fit. But what was really amazing with NTI is that they really reviewed the resume that I submitted, what I was currently doing with my life to find a good fit, because they placed me with Meyer, and I'd never even heard of Meyer. I think most people in California have never heard of the company Meyer, which is a phenomenal store, mostly on the Midwest, East Coast, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, and it's similar to Target. And so they reached out to me and said, we think that this would be a better fit for you. And I worked with the Department of Rehab, another phenomenal organization, and they helped fund all the training and the equipment that I would need. And so I was able to do my training at home. Everything was accommodating for me, which was phenomenal. The next thing I know, I was working for Meyer, and it was just such a fantastic fit for me to have the opportunity to do customer service with the field that I'm already in with gusto. I mean, customer service, honestly, when you're in retail, I feel like that's number one. Like, of course, you need to have an amazing product, but the other huge part of that is customer service. What kind of customer experience are you creating? And so working for Meyer has just helped me polish that ability every day.
It's amazing how the experiences within your own job could expand your awareness of the level of customer service that needs to transfer into other parts of your life. So with that, let me ask you, you're doing Gustav, Miss Wheelchair California, your job at NTI, advocating for individuals with disabilities. How do you keep that balance among all of your activities?
It is definitely a delicate dance. Having a lot of fun doing it. I think that's the most important part, that make sure whatever it is that you're juggling, that you're enjoying it. And then at the end of the day, I just kind of take a minute to step back and look at the results, see if the actions I'm taking are moving me in the direction that I want to be or if they're not. So I think it's a process of constantly stopping to see, where am I at? How am I doing? Am I still enjoying this? What could we be doing better? How is my team doing? So I think it's just something where you have to take moments to really pause, appreciate where you're at, think about where you're trying to be. And for me, I do my gratitude journal every day. Think about where you've been. Like, really think about how far you've come. That, for me, is such a huge motivator when I think about where I started mentally. First year, it was a huge struggle. I mean, I shaved all my hair off. I stayed in the house. Like, I did that. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to see my friends. Like, I went through that really dark period that you can sometimes experience after a traumatic injury. You're struggling really to find your identity again, to really understand who you are, what do you want, and how do you get it. So I went through that phase, and so right now I do have a lot on my plate, but I'm enjoying all of it. And, sometimes you hit it out the park, and some days you're just wondering why you got off the bench. But you get up the next day and you do it again, and you try to do better, and that's all really you can ask for.
A lot of people who come to NTI struggle to come off the bench. They say things to themselves like, I haven't worked for 5 years. I don't know if I could do this. And a lot of people just put our information on the fridge. 8 months will pass before they even think about calling. So what advice would you give to them to inspire confidence and give themselves a shot to get off the bench and win it for themselves?
That's probably the most difficult part, is just believe in yourself enough that you could do it. So for me, my hesitations were, do I have the stamina? I mean, do I really have what it takes to enter a professional environment and make a commitment to a company that I could keep? Because the last thing that you want to do is fail. I feel like the fear of failure keeps a lot of people on the bench, keeps it just a phone number on the refrigerator, just a magnet that you pass by every day, but something you're not taking action on. So I would encourage anyone listening, if you're ready to work, you want to join the workforce, but you're not certain, if you have what it takes, jump in. Just jump in. Because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to discover where your energy level is, 6-7 months from now. And either you're able to do it, and it's fantastic, and you find that out, or you realize, hey, you need a little bit more. You need a little bit more time, or a little bit more resources, or a little bit more physical therapy, whatever it is that you need, but now you've identified it. So you're in a better place than you were if you hadn't gone for it at all. So definitely go for it. I think that you'll surprise yourself. I think we rise to the occasion more often than not. And when we don't, well, you learned something from that. And so that's my approach now. Go for it. You're either win or you learn. So just see, there's only two outcomes you could have. You'll win or you'll learn something new about yourself. And then you'll be able to go into the direction that you need to.
When NTI connected you with Meyer, I'm sure it wasn't all smooth sailing. Can you tell us about the hurdles and adjustments you had to make in order to become successful?
Absolutely. So when I started working for Meyer, before that I had just been working from home. I'd done some freelance writing and some other things, and again, I was working on Gusto. So when you do something like that as an entrepreneur, you're making your own schedule. And so you're doing your own thing. And so with Meyer, I made a commitment to be working 6 to 7 hours a day, which was unusual for me, like straight. And so in the beginning, it was like I needed to get my energy up because it was challenging at first to get through the entire day. But then after that, like I really acclimated quickly, and I was able to manage the schedule. And then the issue that I was having were caregivers. So I need a caregiver to help me throughout the day with different things, and definitely help me, get changed and get ready for bed. And my schedule, because it is an East Coast company, I was working until 10 o'clock at night. And so that was creating some challenges with finding a caregiver who could stay that late, because if I got off at 10, then they wouldn't get off till 11. So I think it was just figuring out a way to speak up for myself and try to carve out the kind of schedule that was accommodating for me without feeling like I was becoming not a burden to my employer, but difficult. I think that definitely plays in the back of people's minds who do need extra accommodations. You're sometimes concerned that what you need is too difficult, that you're asking for too much. Put those worries aside. Whatever accommodation you need, reach out to your employer, your supervisor, whoever it is, and just let them know. Let them know, because more than likely they want to accommodate you. They want you to be successful too. That's what I would say. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to whoever you're working for and let them know what it is you need. What would make your experience more comfortable for you?
That's a nice part of partnering with NTI. We work along with the clients in order to provide that smooth transition. They understand that an individual working with us has a disability, although they don't know what it is, and they're willing to set forth the right accommodations in order for someone to be a productive person in the workplace. So it's scary sometimes, and that's why NTI is there to help. So thank you so much for sharing that. And other than work, our listeners are probably also wondering a little bit more about being Miss Wheelchair California. So as a member of the disability community, you also have a title and a platform. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So my platform is entrepreneurship and disability. And my focus is how entrepreneurs with disabilities can change the world, and we actually are. So there's a statistic from the Chicagoland Education for People with Disabilities who are entrepreneurs, that if an entrepreneur with a disability hired just one employee with a disability, we could create over 2.5 million jobs a year. So that message to me is so exciting, because I know what entrepreneurship has done for my life. It's very liberating. I think people with disabilities have so much to offer as far as the workforce goes. I mean, we're educated and we're talented and we're skilled, and we are living extremely unique experiences than most able-bodied people, because our whole mindset is different. Where for me, every day I'm focused on solutions. Like nothing just comes easily. Like the kind of thing you get up, and I remember from before, I think that's also key. I have a unique experience where I was able-bodied, and now that I'm not. So it's like I know what it took before. You just get up and you go. You don't think about it. But now everything is very strategic, very organized, very planned. You have to be very mindful of what you're doing in order to get from A to B. It's not as simple as it was before. So the whole mindset is different. And you're very focused on solutions. And you really start to understand what it means about not sweating the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. The longer that you've been a part of the disability community, you really start to see that that is true. So I just feel like entrepreneurs with disabilities have so much to offer. Their communities, this nation, I feel like we are an untapped resource, and we need to realize that ourselves as well as the workforce. We all need to come together and say, what could we achieve together if we tried, similar to what NTI has done. They realized, firsthand, you have an incredible workforce just sitting at home. They're educated, they have experience, and they're ambitious too, and they're ready. You just have this place where we need to find a way to accommodate them in order for them to achieve their goals and do their job. You know what I mean? So
that reminds me, the latest CDC report came out. It stated that 1 in every 4 Americans has a disability, which increases from the prior report of 1 in every 6. That number severely impacts the entrepreneurial impact within our country. And regardless of whether an individual has a disability, they may have the knowledge prior to that disability, as well as even up to 20 years of experience to make an impact in an organization. For example, we had 2 individuals who were on our IRS project, and they ended up connecting, coming up with an idea to create flexible and portable eyeglasses. Those individuals were on Shark Tank, and they powered forward to get their eyeglasses brand, Thin Optics, in major retailers like CVS, Walgreens, and even on Amazon. Now they're a multi-million-dollar organization. So it goes to show you the impact of disability could have on the entrepreneurial community and the talent that's available for the workforce. We discussed the possibilities of individuals with disabilities within the workplace. But what are a couple of things that you would like to educate those outside the disability community on?
Oh, yeah, that is a fantastic question. If you're not part of the disability community, I can understand sometimes people have apprehension and fear, as we all do, about things that we don't understand. But I would say, the number one thing when you're approaching someone who is a PWD or a person with a disability is just be accommodating first and curious second. I feel like a lot of the times people who aren't part of the community will let their curiosity take over them, and this is going to create a really uncomfortable experience for someone with a disability, because what you may feel like is an innocent and a normal thing to ask someone, hey, what happened? Just casually, hey, what happened? You may be asking them about the most difficult experience or day of their life. No idea. And so it's a much better approach to be accommodating first. So imagine you're both headed towards a store and you get to the door first. It's perfectly okay to open the door and to be polite and to be accommodating. And if you are able to strike up a conversation and you're speaking to that person, you get to know that person, then, it would be appropriate maybe, to inquire, hey, what happened to you? But just initially, just straight out the gate, it's not a very comfortable situation. And I've gotten that so many times, and it's so curious to me how perfect strangers would feel comfortable to ask that question. And I know that sometimes curiosity gets the better of us, and we just want to know, you know what I mean? But if you could just hold back and, just be courteous and kind and accommodating to this person, you're both going to have a much better experience than if you go the other route. See, a second thing you should know about the disability community is that we are just like everyone else. And by that, I mean, we want the same things. We're just going about getting them differently. We want financial freedom. We want to travel. We want to have families. We want to carve out careers that are satisfying, that we're passionate about. So we're just the same. We're just going about our lives differently. We're doing things differently. And you don't have to be apprehensive or afraid.
Sometimes people with disabilities feel invisible or discriminated against. What helps you out when you're feeling that way?
Compassion. I really try to have, when I'm out and I could see someone is uncomfortable with my presence, they're not making eye contact, they're speaking to my companion or whoever I'm with, although I'm sitting right there. So
Hmm.
when I'm involved in these type of exchanges, I try to have compassion for them and remember that they're acting out of a place of discomfort and probably fear. And
Hmm.
so I really see that as an opportunity for me, to put them at ease and speak up and say, hey, it's okay to address me, or hey, that's mom and she's helping me today, but you could talk to me about that, and just try to break the ice and have a conversation with them and make eye contact with them and just make them feel more comfortable interacting with someone with a disability, with the hopes that the next time they come across someone, that it's a less awkward exchange, that they feel comfortable to look that person in the eye and speak to them directly. And so that's what I do when I'm in these situations. They can be frustrating, but I always try, don't take them personally. This is someone who may not have a lot of experience interacting with people with disabilities, and so you have a chance to put them at ease and show them that you're just like everyone else, and they don't have to be afraid of you.
Over the years, the tides are changing mindsets towards individuals with disabilities, but we're just not there yet. However, it takes conversation and inclusion to realize that although we may do things a little bit differently, we all have the same hopes and desires. So, on that note, what is your dream for disability and accessibility in America?
Oh, wow, I love that question. My dream, my dream is that it just becomes second nature, that the landscape really, it truly becomes all inclusive, that when I leave my house, I don't even give it a second thought if the restaurant or the venue or the building, if wherever I'm going is going to be accessible. You don't even think about it. That you don't give it a second thought if you show up somewhere, if someone there will speak sign language, or if it will be accommodating for someone with visual or hearing impairment. That those kind of accommodations are no longer the exception to the rule, that they are the norm. There used to be segregated classrooms. I mean, that kind of thing now, people would be like, what? Like, that's unheard of, and it's unimaginable. And that's what I want it to be like in the future. You couldn't imagine going somewhere and there wasn't an elevator, or there wasn't a lift, or there wasn't a ramp. You know what I mean? Like, that's unimaginable. How could there not be accommodations for all Americans? So that's my dream, that it's all inclusive, all accommodating for everyone, and you don't have to stress and worry if the hotel is going to have a shower back. It's just, you just go and you live your life as freely as anyone else, because those accommodations are built in. I had the opportunity to go to a disabled-owned and operated business in San Francisco called Mozzeria, and it's a pizza place, and it's all the owners are hearing impaired. So you sign and you use other like texting devices, and it's just in the neighborhood. I mean, it's just, that's what you do. I mean, and everyone is very comfortable there. It was a phenomenal experience, and I loved seeing it. I was like, this is the direction that we're moving in. This is so incredible. And I thought, could you imagine going into a space where signing was not mandatory but optional, but that's just what you did? It's like you have cafes where all you do is sign. Everyone signs whether they're hearing impaired or not, because it's more a lovely, quiet environment. You know what I mean? So you stop thinking just for this person or that, but something that we can all incorporate and elevate our lives with.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. We've been working along with Eric Hawk, the guitarist from the rock group Portugal the Man. You may have heard their song Feel It Still on the radio. And Eric's been touring with the group for the past 2 years now across the whole entire globe. He's been through a lot of venues, and we had a conversation with him the other week regarding this. And he said most venues out there don't have the accessibility options in order for him to move freely with his wheelchair or even access a facility. After talking to a couple of the band members, they said sometimes they have to bring him down 4 flights of stairs, or they have to bring him into dumbwaiters in order to get him physically into the building with his wheelchair. It makes for a very awkward situation as well as uncomfortable for Eric. He's noticed, though, that a lot of venues within the United States have started making these adaptations to include wheelchair access ramps, elevators, in order to get people within the building. But for the most part, a lot of them are old. It's going to be a slow-moving process for the United States to move on forward for full accessibility.
said we're slowly inching towards that. So hopefully he'll be touring. It won't even be a second thought how he's going to get to the second level, or if it is, accessible.
So let me ask you, what do you want future generations to think of when they hear the name Krystina Jackson?
Oh, wow. When they hear my name, I want them to think of kindness and compassion. I want them to think of someone who was a breaker of chains. I feel that disability sometimes can be very restricting mentally. You can get stuck in a place where you just cannot find your way out. And for that, I would say make peace your priority. Don't make people or a career or a title or money or traveling or experiences, don't make those the goal, like everything that you're working towards, because those things, they'll create some joy and some happiness, but they'll be so fleeting. And maybe I've seen the Trolls movie like one too many times with my niece, but honestly, happiness is inside you. It really is inside you. You don't have to add anything else to yourself. You can if you'd like and just enjoy that experience, but don't look to that to create happiness for you. Like for me, a long time I was thinking, once I have my degree or once my company is at this level or once this, and when you make peace your priority and you start really studying what it is to be mindful and non-judgmental and inclusive, you really start to realize, well, those things aren't going to create lasting happiness. That is something that's inside of you, that you find a place of stillness and peace within yourself and your life, and just recognize that you're enough, and then everything else just becomes bonuses, just part of the journey.
So we're starting to wind down on time, but I was wondering, are there any questions that you wish I would have asked you, or any last comments you would like to make?
Let me think about that. These questions have been phenomenal. Really, really thought-provoking, fantastic questions. Let me think if there's anything else that I'd like to include. Oh, I would love to say something really quickly, because the Miss Wheelchair California Leadership Institute competition was nowhere on my radar. And if you're listening to this and advocating is something that's on your heart, or you would like to simply raise awareness for the disability community to show other people what you're up to, what your life is like, because you feel like it's something that could uplift or inspire others, please go for it. I don't think that we can have enough advocates for our community. So for the next, until March, until I pass off my crown, I'll be traveling throughout California. I might make some trips out of California if I'm invited to, but I'll be traveling throughout California, singing and speaking and attending parades and doing what I can. And it's been so empowering and enjoyable. So I would encourage anyone who wants to get into advocating, whether it's on this level or just something that you do personally. I mean, you don't have to have a crown or a title or a platform to advocate on behalf of others. There could be a venue in your neighborhood where you go to see your favorite band and it's not very accessible. You could start there. So I would definitely say that if you want to advocate, you should definitely look into it. It's empowering, it's wonderful, and it's been a phenomenal journey so far.
Agreed. If our listeners wanted to follow along with your tour schedule and find out more about it, how can they follow along?
Yes, we do have some galas and ribbon cuttings and different things coming up. So definitely follow me on Instagram. I always post everything that I have going on my Instagram, where I'm going to be next. And my Instagram handle is MSWheelchairCA18. So yeah, you could follow me there. I'm also on Facebook. I'm always posting my events, and I would love to see everyone come out to these events and have a good time with me. And
Krystina, we definitely want them to follow along, because you've been involved with a very diverse scope of events over the past couple of weeks, and I've been following along on Instagram and Twitter, and you've been posting some really cool things up there.
Over the weekend, I did an event in Oakland. They had a disability resource summit, and that was really amazing. And I met a woman there. She's Korean, and she invited me to an all-Asian parents with children with disabilities gathering in October to speak and to sing. And
Oh,
and
great.
it's just been incredible. Just so one event leads to another and you meet someone else new, and it's just been a wonderful, diverse community of people that I've had the opportunity to meet.
Now, let me ask you, with your crown of Miss Wheelchair California, do you have to do a set of events, appearances? How's that all work?
So when you win, there's I want to say it's like a 20-page contract that you read over and you sign. Definitely where you have responsibilities and you have duties that you need to meet. And so you must attend 2 events a month. I've been really fortunate where I've had the chance to do 4 or 5 events a month, which is really fantastic. So yeah, the minimum is 2 events a month, but I mean, and that's not a struggle at all. If you're worried that if you win, how are you ever going to book all these events? Trust me, you'll be able to do it easily, because once you do one, then people reach out to you and they'd like you to do another, and more than likely you'll be turning down events, especially if you have any other obligations. Like for me, I have work, but honestly, Meyer has been amazing working with me and my schedule so that I could attend all these events and so that I could travel to Grand Rapids, and compete for a week. That was such an incredible experience. And I think I was telling you earlier that Meyer was their headquarters was 10 minutes from the hotel, and they came and picked me up and took me back to headquarters and let me see their whole operation and meet some of their buyers. They even let me practice my speech while I was there. So if they're listening, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Yeah.
Wow. They sponsored you too, is that correct? Or
Yes, absolutely. And they're one of my sponsors. So the whole
That's fantastic.
NCI Meyer experience has been a dream, honestly. It's been a real dream.
Would you be able to give your Twitter and Instagram handles again so that way our listeners could follow along with you?
Absolutely. So on Twitter, I am at Krystina, MWCA 18, and my name is spelled Krystina. And Instagram is at Miss Wheelchair CA 18.
That's all the time we have today. That was our guest, Krystina Jackson, Miss Wheelchair California. Follow along with her and support her efforts in making the world a more inclusive place for Americans with disabilities. Thank you so much, Krystina, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.